The vast chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers around a central speaking platform. The air hummed with translation devices and the quiet whispers of a dozen species. James Miller sat straight-backed in the human delegation seat. His gray suit was perfectly pressed, his face calm despite the growing tension in his chest. For 6 hours, he had listened to the council members talk about everything except Earth's petition for full membership. The human territories must increase their ore exports by 30%, said Councillor Thorne, his tall, thin body swaying as he spoke. His skin had the texture of tree bark, and his 4 eyes blinked in different patterns. This is non-negotiable. Miller made a note on his tablet. Another demand. Always demands, never compromises. And what does Earth receive in return? He asked, his voice steady. Thorne made a dismissive gesture with 3 of his 6 limbs. The continued protection of the Galactic Council, of course. The chamber filled with murmurs of agreement. Miller noticed how the larger species nodded while the smaller ones remained silent. The pattern was always the same. Earth has requested access to the Council's medical database for 3 decades, Miller said. Yet we are still denied. Your species is too young, rumbled the massive representative of the Carex Dominion, a creature that looked like a walking mountain of purple crystal. The knowledge must be earned. Miller took a slow breath. For 50 years, Earth had played by their rules. For 50 years, humans had been patient, offering their technology, resources, and labor in exchange for a seat at the table. And for 50 years, the Council had moved the goalposts. His secure tablet vibrated. A message from Admiral Elizabeth Stone appeared on the screen. *URGNT. Long-range sensors DHTCT massive IFLET ASMBI in CT2 or 17. Council species markings CO and FI or MED. *. Miller felt a cold rush through his body. Sector 17 was only 2 jumps from Earth. There was no reason for a fleet to gather there, unless the Council had been planning something all along. A second message flashed. * from Earth Command. Abandon NEGOTIHJONS IMEGBATLY. Code Phoenix INITA KID. *. Miller looked up at the chamber full of beings who had been lying to his face for years. His earpiece quietly delivered a soft voice from Earth. We've seen enough. Ambassador, it's time to walk away. The Iridian representative was speaking now, listing new regulations for human colonies. Miller stood up slowly, interrupting the alien mid-sentence. The chamber fell silent. No one interrupted council proceedings. Ambassador Miller, said the Grand Speaker, his gelatinous body pulsing with light. You have not been recognized to speak. Miller smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. I don't need your recognition anymore, he said. His voice was calm but carried throughout the chamber. As of this moment, Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from all negotiations with the Galactic Council. Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. You cannot simply withdraw, said Thorne, his body stiffening with alarm. There are protocols, procedures. We're done with your procedures, Miller said. He closed his tablet and slipped it into his pocket. For 50 years, humanity has offered friendship and received exploitation in return. We have honored every agreement while you have broken yours whenever convenient. This is most irregular. The Grand Speaker pulsed rapidly, his lights flashing in distress. Earth has contributed more technological advances in 5 decades than some of your members have in centuries, Miller continued. Yet we are still treated as children. No more. Are you threatening the Council? Asked the Carex representative, leaning forward. Miller laughed. It was a sound that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. Not at all. We're just going home. He turned and walked toward the exit. The human aides at the back of the room were already packing their materials, their movements quick and practiced. Ambassador Miller, called Thorne, if you leave now, there will be consequences. Miller paused at the door and looked back at the chamber. "There certainly will be," he said quietly. "Just not the ones you're expecting." The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. In the shocked silence that followed, the council members looked at each other with growing unease. No one had ever walked away from the Galactic Council before. No one knew what would happen next. 3 days after Ambassador Miller's dramatic exit, the Galactic Council still struggled to make sense of humanity's actions. No one had expected such a bold move. "Where are they?" demanded Councillor Thorne, pacing the length of the emergency chamber. His bark-like skin had darkened with stress. "We have sent 16 official messages to Earth. All ignored." The Grand Speaker's body rippled with concern. "Not ignored. The response is always the same. The human delegation is unavailable for communication." On the main viewing screen, red dots blinked out one by one across the galaxy map. Each disappearing light marked a human diplomatic outpost shutting down. "They're withdrawing everything," said the small, furry representative of the novel species. "Not just diplomats. Trading posts, research stations, cultural centers, all closing." Admiral Varix of the Carix Dominion rumbled from his crystalline seat. "Let them go. They will come crawling back when they need our protection." "Will they?" asked the novel representative. Her large eyes reflected the changing map. "Look at what they're doing." The screen shifted to show a human mining colony in the Centauri system. Usually bustling with activity, the massive operation had ground to a halt. Hundreds of ships were being loaded with equipment. The enormous processing plants were being systematically dismantled. "They're taking everything of value," whispered Thorne, "leaving nothing behind." "The economic disruption is already severe," reported a financial advisor. "Human trade makes up 17% of galactic commerce. 3 trading hubs have reported market crashes." The Grand Speaker pulsed with angry lights. "This is unacceptable. They cannot simply leave." But they were leaving, quietly, methodically, without drama or threats. Aboard the Earth defense vessel _determination_, Admiral Elizabeth Stone watched the withdrawal operations on multiple screens. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform crisp despite the 36 hours she'd been on duty. "Status report," she ordered. Her second-in-command, Captain Rogers, checked his talent. 93% of diplomatic staff extracted. 78% of commercial operations packed up. Mining equipment at 64%. Stone nodded. "And our special project?" "On schedule, Admiral. The Council has no idea what we're building." Stone allowed herself a small smile. "Keep it that way." A communication officer called out, "Admiral." Another message from the Council. "Same response as before," Stone said without looking away from the screens. "Also, we've detected scout ships near the Proxima outpost. They're watching us." Stone's smile faded. "Let them watch. Just make sure they don't see anything important." Back on Earth, the streets of New Geneva hummed with activity. While the public news spoke vaguely of diplomatic readjustments, factories worked around the clock. Workers poured out of massive industrial complexes as shifts changed. Military bases were sealed off from public view. Inside the United Defense Command headquarters, General Thomas Ward studied reports from across human space. "Are we really doing this?" asked his aide, a young officer named Davis. Ward looked up from his screens. "They've left us no choice. The fleet they're gathering near Sector 17 was the final proof. They never intended to treat us as equals." "But, sir, cutting off all contact with the rest of the galaxy is exactly what they don't expect," Ward finished. "For 50 years, we've been predictable, reliable. Now we're neither." He pointed to a classified report. "Besides, we're not cutting off contact forever. We're just buying time." "Time for what, sir?" Ward's eyes hardened. "Time to show them exactly what humanity can do when pushed too far." On the Council station, the emergency session entered its second day. Representatives argued about how to respond to humanity's silence. We should send a fleet to Earth, suggested Admiral Verex. Show them the consequences of defiance. The novel representative's fur bristled. That would be a terrible mistake. Humans are dangerous when cornered. Dangerous? Thorn laughed. They have a few hundred ships. The Council has thousands. The novel stood up, her small size belying her intensity. You don't understand them. I've studied humans for 20 years. When they go quiet like this, it means they're planning something. Planning what? Asked the Grand Speaker. The novel looked at the map, where another red dot had just disappeared. That's what should terrify you. 3 months passed. The sudden hole in galactic trade left by humanity's departure had caused economic troubles across multiple sectors. But now, something else was spreading through the Council worlds. Fear. In the luxurious private chamber of Councillor Thorn, 5 of the most powerful representatives in the galaxy met in secret. What are they doing? Asked Thorn, pouring a glowing blue liquid for his guests. His hands shook slightly. It's been 3 months. No messages, no demands, nothing. Admiral Verex of the Carix Dominion shifted his massive crystalline form. Our spy ships report unusual energy readings from their star systems, particularly around their sun. The Grand Speaker's body pulsed with dim lights. Explain. A small gray-skinned scientist named Meal activated a holographic display. This is Sol, the human home star, as it appeared 1 year ago. The image showed a typical yellow star. And this, Meal continued, is Sol today. The new image showed the same star, but with strange geometric patterns visible on its surface. What are we seeing? Asked Thorn. We don't know, Meal admitted. They appear to be changing their stars somehow. Heavy silence fell over the room. That's impossible, Verex finally said. No species can manipulate a star. The novel representative, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Perhaps we've underestimated them. There's more, Meal said. Energy output from their planets has tripled. And we've detected unusual ripples in space-time near their borders. Thorn walked to the window, looking out at the gleaming Council station. Could they be building weapons? Almost certainly, said Verex, which is why we must strike first, before they become too powerful. The novel representative's fur bristled. That would be unwise. We don't know what they're capable of. They're just humans, Verex rumbled dismissively. Clever, yes, but still primitive compared to the elder races. Are they? The novel pulled out a small device and projected an image of a human exploration vessel that had been spotted near an uninhabited system. Our patrol tried to approach this ship last week. It vanished. Not jumped to hyperspace, vanished. No trace. The Grand Speaker's lights flickered rapidly. That's concerning. We should send a diplomatic fleet to Earth, suggested Thorn. A show of force to remind them of their place, but officially just a mission to restart dialogue. The novel shook her small head. I advise against. Your advice is noted, interrupted Verex. But the Council cannot appear weak. If we allow one species to simply walk away, others might follow. The vote was quick, 4-1 in favor of sending the fleet. On the distant world of Teleris, known for its marketplaces, 2 traders spoke in hushed tones over steaming drinks. Have you heard? Asked the first, a scaled being with multiple eye stalks. They say humans have built something enormous in their home system. The second trader, a mechanical life form, whirred softly. I heard their ships can now disappear from sensors completely. My cousin works on a mining planet. The scaled trader leaned closer. He says the humans took something from deep underground before they left. Something ancient. Something powerful. At another table, a being made entirely of swirling gas solidified enough to join the conversation. The novel knows something. They'd been quiet in council meetings, but they're strengthening their defenses. Smart, said the mechanical trader. Very smart. Why? Asked the scaled being. The gas creature swirled anxiously. Because the Novel were the only ones who ever treated humans as equals. The rest of us may have reason to worry. Deep in human space, aboard the massive space station _Phoenix_, Admiral Stone studied the latest intelligence reports. The Council fleet has departed, reported Captain Rogers. 17 capital ships, 42 support vessels, all heavily armed despite their diplomatic mission. Stone nodded. As expected. Time to send the message to all human ships. Operation Reveal begins in 48 hours. Are we ready? Rogers asked. Stone walked to the observation deck. Beyond the reinforced windows, thousands of workers in specialized suits swarmed over a structure so vast it defied comprehension. We've been ready for months, she said. The question is, are they ready for us? In the vast darkness of space, the structure pulsed once with blue light, as if in answer. The Council's diplomatic fleet approached the edge of the Sol system, their massive ships arranged in battle formation despite their peaceful claims. At the center, the command vessel _Galactic Authority dwarfed the others, its hull gleaming with weaponry. Fleet Commander Dres stood on the bridge, his scaled skin shimmering under the lights. His 4 arms were clasped behind his back as he studied the main view screen. No sign of human defenses, reported his second-in-command. Dres nodded. As expected, begin broadcasting the message. A communication officer activated the system. Broadcasting now. Commander. Demanding humans resume negotiations and submit to Council authority. The fleet continued forward, weapons systems on standby. The mood on the bridge was relaxed, almost bored. This mission was supposed to be simple. Show up, make demands, watch the humans give in. Commander, called a sensor officer suddenly. Single ship detected ahead. Dres leaned forward. Show me. The view screen zoomed in on a small human vessel. It was barely 1/10 the size of the _Galactic Authority sleek and dark against the stars. That's it. Dres laughed. That's their defense. His officers joined in his amusement. The tension on the bridge melted away. We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel, reported the communication officer. Put it on screen, ordered Dres, settling into his command chair. Let's hear what excuses they offer. The image of a human appeared. He wore a simple dark uniform with minimal markings. This is Captain Marcus Reed of Earth Defense Force, said the human calmly. You are entering restricted space. Return to your territories immediately. This is your only warning. Dres stared at the screen, then burst into laughter. His entire bridge crew joined in. Or what? Dres asked when he could speak again. You have one small ship. We have a fleet. What could you possibly do? Reed's expression didn't change. We were hoping you would make this choice. The transmission ended abruptly. Dres shook his head. Humans and their bluffs. Continue forward, full speed. The sensor officer called out suddenly. Commander, the human ship is activating something. Weapons? Dres asked, straightening. No, sir. I don't know what it is. On the view screen, the small human ship seemed to glow slightly. Then something impossible happened. Every star visible from the fleet's position dimmed simultaneously. For 3 seconds, the universe went dark except for the faint glow of the human vessel. When the stars returned to normal, the fleet's sensors screamed with alarms. Multiple contacts, shouted the sensor officer. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. The view screen showed the impossible, where empty space had been moments before. A massive human armada now surrounded the Council fleet completely. Ships of all sizes, many larger than the _Galactic Authority, itself, hung in perfect formation. Where did they come from? Whispered Dres, his scales paling. How did we not detect them? The communication system activated again. Captain Reed's face appeared, still calm. Now you see us, he said simply. We've been here the whole time. Your sensors just couldn't detect us until we wanted to be seen. Dres found his voice. Impossible. No technology can hide ships from our sensors. Reed smiled slightly. Humanity has been busy these past months. We've developed technology to manipulate space-time itself. We can choose when and where to appear in this universe. Murmurs of fear spread across the bridge. "Why reveal yourselves now?" asked Dres, trying to hide his trembling. "To deliver a message to the Council," Reed replied. "We know about the fleet gathering near Sector 17. We know about the plans to attack Earth. We know everything." Dres felt cold fear run through his body. How could they know? "You have 1 hour to turn your fleet around," continued Reed. "Any hostile action will be met with immediate response. We will not fire first, but we will definitely fire last." The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Galactic Authority panic began to spread. "Orders, Commander?" asked the second in command. Dres stared at the screen, at the overwhelming force surrounding his ships. "Turn around," he said quietly. "Tell the Council. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were." The emergency council chamber was in complete chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, some standing on their seats to be heard. The grand circular room, usually a place of order, had become a battlefield of words. "The humans must be destroyed," General Dorn shouted, pounding his fist on the speaking platform. "They've spied on us for decades. They've stolen our technology." Council leader Arton raised his hands for quiet, but few listened. The news from Earth had shaken the very foundation of the Galactic Council. A species that should have been easy to control had not only rejected them but revealed power that threatened the Council's authority. "We cannot rush to war," urged Representative Tala of the peaceful Lyran species. Her gentle voice somehow cut through the noise. "The humans have shown restraint. They disabled ships without destroying them." "Restraint?" Dorn spat. "They threatened us. They demand we leave their system or face consequences." Intelligence Officer Mira stepped forward, her face grim. "I have more troubling news," she said, activating the holographic display. "We've discovered human outposts in 17 star systems. They'd been quietly expanding for years while hiding their true capabilities." Gasps filled the chamber. According to Council records, humans had barely reached their own moon. "How is this possible?" Arton asked, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Mira hesitated. "There's more. We've detected communication between humans and several subject species within our territory." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what subject species meant, those who had been conquered by the Council and were now little more than slaves. "They've been talking to our slaves," Dorn growled. "Not just talking," Mira corrected. "Based on signal patterns, they've been in contact for at least 15 years. Representative Tala stood taller. "Perhaps it's time we acknowledge the truth about how the Council treats its members." "Traitor," shouted a representative from a predatory species aligned with Dorn. "You sound like you support these humans." The chamber erupted again, but this time representatives were taking sides. The peaceful species gathered around Tala, while the military-minded clustered near Dorn. Some simply looked confused, caught between factions. Arton watched helplessly as the unity of the Council, maintained for over 1,000 years, crumbled before his eyes. Near the back of the chamber, 3 representatives slipped quietly from the room. They were from different species, but shared looks of determination. They had made a decision. Hours later, as the arguments continued, an aide rushed to Arton with an urgent message. "3 Council ships have broken formation," the aide whispered. "They're heading toward Earth, with their weapons powered down." Arton's face showed shock. Who would dare? "Representatives from the Lyran, Trill, and Manthi worlds," the aide replied. General Dorn overheard and stormed over. "This is rebellion. Those ships must be stopped." But it was too late. The 3 ships had already jumped to faster than light travel. Mira approached Arton quietly. "Leader, our intelligence suggests that 12 Council species are considering withdrawal. The humans have become a rallying point." Arton sank into his chair. The mighty Galactic Council, which had ruled the stars for millennia, was splintering over a single planet of defiant beings. On the main viewing screen, Earth appeared small and blue. It seemed impossible that such a world could cause this much trouble. "We must act decisively," Dorn declared, taking control of the fractured meeting. "I propose a full military response to crush this human rebellion before it spreads." To Arkin's dismay, many representatives nodded in agreement. Fear was driving them toward war. Meanwhile, the three defecting ships raced toward Earth, carrying a message of peace and the beginning of a new alliance that would change the galaxy forever. The three Council ships approached Earth cautiously. They had shut down their weapon systems completely as a sign of peace. Still, dozens of human defense platforms locked onto them, ready to fire if needed. "Approaching vessels, identify yourselves," came Admiral Gray's voice over the communication system. A female Lyran appeared on the screen. Her fur was silver, and her eyes showed both fear and hope. "I am Representative Tala of Lyra," she said. "With me are Representatives Zulo of Trill and Bax of Manthi. We come in peace, against Council orders." Admiral Gray studied them carefully. "Why should we trust you?" "Because we have been waiting for someone like you," Tala replied simply. "Not all Council members agree with how weaker species are treated. We seek change." After a tense moment, Admiral Gray nodded. "You will be escorted to Europa Station. Any aggressive move will result in immediate destruction." The three alien ships followed human vessels to Jupiter's moon, Europa. Hidden beneath its icy surface was a massive base, invisible to outside scans. As they docked, the alien representatives were shocked by what they saw. Captain Mark Reed greeted them at the airlock. "Welcome to Freedom Base," he said with a slight smile. "You might find some familiar faces here." As they walked through the station, the aliens froze in amazement. Working alongside humans were members of at least 20 different species, many of which were supposed to be under Council control. "How is this possible?" Tala whispered. Captain Reed led them to a large meeting room. "Humanity has been rescuing people from Council oppression for over 20 years, he explained. "Every time the Council thought they had crushed a rebellion or pacified a troublesome species, we saved as many as we could." An alien stepped forward. He was from an insect-like species that the Council had declared extinct after they refused to surrender their homeworld. "I am the last High Speaker of the Xendi," he said. "The Council destroyed our planet, but humans saved 5,000 of us. We are rebuilding here, in secret." Representative Zulo's eyes widened. "The Council told us that Xendi died from a natural disaster." "The Council has told many lies," Captain Reed said grimly. "That's why we rejected their offer. We've seen what happens to those who join." In a corner of the room stood a holographic display of the galaxy. It showed dozens of hidden human bases and outposts, as well as rescue routes used to free oppressed people. "Our goal was never to fight the Council," Captain Reed continued. "It was to create an alternative, a true alliance based on mutual respect and freedom." Back at the Council, General Dorn had seized control through a military coup. Council leader Arton and those loyal to him had been arrested. "The time for debate is over," Dorn announced to the remaining representatives. "Earth has corrupted our unity and stolen our subjects. I hereby declare war on humanity and all who stand with them." Many representatives cheered, driven by fear and anger. But others quietly slipped away, no longer willing to follow a Council that had abandoned its principles. On Europa, Captain Reed received the news with a grim expression. "Dorn has declared war," he told the gathered leaders. "We expected this." Admiral Gray nodded. "Activate the beacon protocol." Across the galaxy, hidden transmitters began broadcasting a simple message in hundreds of languages. "The time has come. Earth stands ready. Join us in freedom." On 22 worlds, secret resistance movements rose up against Council forces. Ships that had been hidden for years emerged from secret bases. The rebellion that had been planned for decades was finally happening. In the meeting room on Europa, Representatives from the 3 defecting council ships watched in awe as more ships arrived, vessels from species they thought were fully under council control. "What happens now?" asked Representative Bax nervously. Captain Reed looked at the growing fleet on the display. "Now we build something better than the council ever was," he said. "The Galactic Alliance of Free Worlds begins today." General Dorn stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching as his fleet of 30 warships approached Earth. His face was set in a hard expression of determination. This rebellious planet would learn the price of defying the Council. "All ships report ready for battle," his second-in-command announced. "Weapons are at full power." Dorn nodded. "Send the message to Earth. Surrender immediately or face destruction." On Earth, populations had moved to underground shelters. The planet's surface appeared empty and vulnerable, but this was far from the truth. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Gray received Dorn's message with a calm expression. "No response needed," he told his officers. "Activate all defense systems. Signal the Alliance fleet." Around Earth, thousands of hidden weapon platforms came to life. The shield that protected the planet strengthened, glowing blue in space. But Earth wasn't fighting alone. From behind the Moon, from near Mars, and from the outer planets, ships appeared. Hundreds of vessels of different designs, crewed by the species Earth had rescued over the years. Leading them were the many hidden human ships, revealing Earth's true fleet for the first time. On his flagship, General Dorn stared in shock as his sensors showed the massive force gathering against him. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where did all these ships come from?" His tactical officer's voice shook. "Sir, we're detecting vessels from at least 30 different species, including some that shouldn't exist anymore." Before Dorn could respond, more ships appeared behind his fleet. The Council forces were surrounded. "General Dorn," Admiral Gray's voice came through the communication system. "Your Council lied to you. Those species you thought were conquered or extinct, they'd been with us, building, planning. This is your only warning. Leave now or be defeated." Dorn's face darkened with rage. "Never. The Council does not surrender to primitives." He turned to his weapons officer. "Fire everything we have." The Council ships launched their attack, energy weapons blazing toward Earth. But their shots never reached the planet. They hit the shield and disappeared, absorbed completely. Then the Alliance fleet moved. Their weapons were strange, designed not to destroy, but to disable. Beams of blue energy struck the Council ships, shutting down their systems one by one. "What's happening?" Dorn demanded as his ship's lights flickered. "They're using the same technology they demonstrated earlier," his officer replied in fear. "But much stronger. We're losing all systems." Within minutes, the entire Council fleet drifted powerless in space. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but none could fight or escape. Admiral Gray's ship approached Dorn's disabled flagship. "Your crew will not be harmed," Gray's message stated. "Unlike the Council, we don't believe in unnecessary deaths." 1 year later, the new Galactic Alliance headquarters on Earth hosted representatives from 63 species. The grand meeting hall was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, many of whom had once been enemies. Admiral Gray, now serving as Earth's representative, stood at the center platform. "1 year ago, we faced war," he began. "Today, we celebrate peace. The old Council is gone. In its place, we have built something better, an alliance where all voices matter equally." Even former Council loyalists had joined, after learning the truth about how their leaders had lied to them for centuries. General Dorn himself sat in the audience, no longer a military leader but a simple representative of his people. The experience had changed him, forced him to see the galaxy in a new way. "The principles of sovereignty, mutual defense, and cultural preservation will guide us," Admiral Gray continued. "No species will control another. No world will be stripped of its resources against its will." As the meeting concluded, Representative Tala approached Admiral Gray. "Who would have thought?" she said with wonder. that the species who rejected all negotiations would become the architects of the most successful diplomatic achievement in galactic history. Admiral Gray smiled. Sometimes you have to stand firm to create something truly fair. Outside the windows of the Great Hall, Earth's blue oceans and green lands shone in the sunlight, home to a new era of galactic peace.